Okay, friends. So we are in part 7, but before we get there, homework. So this past week you were supposed to read pages 1 through 14 of our little pamphlet, and then next week, our final week, the rest of it. So pages 14 through 28. So that'll be your second reading. And this is the way we learn, right? Unless anybody here has a photographic memory. We learn by multiple exposures to the same material. Right, students? Is that the way you all study? Yeah. So we all, that's like photographic memory right here. So, yeah, so even as adults, even as Christians for a number of years, this is the way that we continue to grow in our knowledge of God and of His ways, is repeated exposure to the same material. So for next week, finish up this little booklet. And then I'll have a bunch of those next week. I'll have maybe 20 or 30 more of those. So I would like for you to take a few of them so you can always have them and you can give to friends or whomever you want to talk to and share the gospel with. So this is the schedule again. So tonight is the part 1 of 2 where we're really going to be talking about worldview. And what I mean by worldview is every single person understands certain truths. And the truths that we understand, they're not neutral. And we'll talk about why that is. They're not neutral bridges to the gospel, but they are bridges nonetheless. And that we can certainly use them to talk to people about and presuppose and assume that they have some sort of understanding of these categories. All right? Okay, so before we get there, we're going to do a review. Before we get to the review, I have a great story to tell about how believing the gospel is very different than explaining the gospel, which is what we're here to do, right? We're here to learn how to explain the gospel. So just yesterday, Marion and James and I were at the main event in Fayetteville, which is like an arcade or something. I don't know. It was a lot of fun, I thought. It's an arcade where you play games and you shoot basketballs and all those things. So we were getting ready to leave, and this young man comes over to me awkwardly and says, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" He's like, he comes in close, kind of secretive. I thought he was going to ask for like directions or something. He's like, "Have you heard the gospel of Jesus Christ?" And so right then I was like, all right, I want to help this young man get a rep in if he's going to really share the gospel here. Or it's probably going to turn into maybe some like reverse evangelism if he does not understand what he is getting ready to say. So I was like, what is that? What do you mean? What is the gospel of Jesus Christ? And so he says, Jesus Christ died for our sins. And I said, why? Why do you have to die for sins? And what is sin? And so then he was like, well, it separates us from God. Which is like, oh, that's pretty good. It's like, well, why do I care? Why do I care about being separated from God? So we went back and forth a few minutes, and he did fine, but he was struggling to answer some of those basic questions that we